Dr. Sarah Chen had always believed the universe was vast and lonely. Standing in the observation deck of the International Space Station, watching Earth turn slowly beneath her, she felt the familiar weight of cosmic solitude. Humanity had been searching for signs of intelligent life for decades, sending radio signals into the void and listening for responses that never came. The morning everything changed started like any other. Sarah was conducting routine atmospheric readings when her instruments began detecting anomalies. Strange energy signatures were appearing in Earth's upper atmosphere, patterns too organized to be natural phenomena. At first, she thought it was equipment malfunction. The readings showed impossible structures of organized electromagnetic fields, like invisible architecture floating in space. Mission Control, we're getting some unusual readings up here, Sarah radioed down to Houston. The atmospheric sensors are picking up organized energy patterns at approximately 400 kilometers altitude. The response came back skeptical. ISS, please run a full diagnostic on your equipment. We're not seeing anything from down here. But Sarah knew her instruments were working perfectly. She had been monitoring Earth's atmosphere for 3 years, and she had never seen anything like this. The energy patterns were growing stronger, more defined. They reminded her of the way iron filings aligned around a magnet, except these were electromagnetic fields arranging themselves in geometric shapes. Down on Earth, similar anomalies were being detected by other scientists. Dr. James Wright at the Arecibo Observatory in Puerto Rico was the first to notice the radio telescope was picking up structured signals that seemed to originate from empty space around Earth. The signals weren't coming from deep space like SETI researchers hoped to find. They were coming from locations that should have been empty vacuum. These aren't random cosmic background radiation, James told his colleague, Dr. Maria Santos. Look at these patterns. They're too organized, too intentional. It's like someone is broadcasting from invisible transmitters positioned around our planet. Maria leaned over the data readouts, her eyes widening as she saw the mathematical precision in the signal patterns. James, if these are artificial signals, that means... She couldn't finish the sentence. The implications were too enormous. Meanwhile, at CERN in Switzerland, particle physicists were detecting their own set of impossible readings. The Large Hadron Collider was picking up exotic particles that seemed to exist in a quantum state they had never observed before. These particles appeared to be interacting with normal matter through gravitational fields. But they remained invisible to electromagnetic radiation. Dr. Andreas Müller, the lead physicist on the project, stared at the data in confusion. These particles are definitely there. We can measure their gravitational effects, their impact on other particles, but they don't interact with photons at all. It's like they exist in our space but are invisible to light. His research partner, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, was running calculations on her computer. Andreas, what if these aren't natural particles? What if they're artificial constructs made from exotic matter we don't understand? The breakthrough came when Sarah Chen made a connection that would change everything. She had been tracking the energy patterns in Earth's atmosphere for 12 hours when she noticed they were synchronized with the radio signals James Wright was detecting. The electromagnetic anomalies she was seeing from the ISS were connected to the structured transmissions from space. They're not separate phenomena, Sarah realized, speaking to herself in the empty observation deck. They're parts of the same system. She immediately contacted both the Arecibo Observatory and CERN, sharing her data with the other research teams. Within hours, scientists around the world were collaborating to piece together what they were discovering. The radio signals, the atmospheric energy patterns, and the exotic particles were all connected. They were components of a massive, invisible infrastructure that surrounded Earth. Dr. Elena Volkov at the Russian Academy of Sciences was the first to propose the theory that would explain everything. What if there are entire civilizations around us that we cannot see? What if they exist using technology based on exotic matter and energy forms that don't interact with electromagnetic radiation? The idea seemed impossible, but the evidence was becoming undeniable. Across the globe, more scientists were detecting similar anomalies. Gravitational wave detectors were picking up artificial patterns. Radio telescopes were receiving structured signals from empty space. Atmospheric monitoring stations were recording organized energy formations. The scientific community was in chaos. Emergency conferences were called. Government agencies were briefed. The data was verified and re-verified by independent teams around the world. Every test confirmed the same impossible conclusion. There were artificial structures and technologies operating in Earth's immediate vicinity that were completely invisible to human detection methods. Sarah. Chen floated in the ISS cupola, looking out at what she had always thought was empty space. Now she knew better. The void around Earth was filled with invisible cities, ships, and technologies beyond human understanding. Entire civilizations existed in the same space humans occupied, but they operated using physics and materials that remained undetectable to human science. "My God," she whispered, watching the energy patterns dance through Earth's atmosphere like aurora that only instruments could see. "We've never been alone. We just couldn't see them." The revelation was spreading through the scientific community like wildfire. Humanity's understanding of their place in the universe was crumbling and rebuilding in real time. Earth wasn't an isolated planet in empty space. It was part of a crowded galactic neighborhood that humans had been blind to for their entire existence. As Sarah continued monitoring the invisible infrastructure around Earth, she began to notice something else. The alien technologies weren't just passively existing near humanity. They were watching, studying, recording everything humans did. The energy patterns she was detecting included data streams that seemed to be cataloging human activities, human communications, human civilization itself. Humanity had spent decades searching for extraterrestrial intelligence, sending messages into space and hoping for contact. All the while, dozens of alien species had been observing human civilization from invisible cities and ships positioned around Earth. They had been watching humanity's entire technological development, cataloging every advancement, every cultural change, every step of human progress. The veil was lifting, and humanity was about to discover just how crowded and dangerous the galaxy really was. Sarah Chen had no idea that her atmospheric readings would be the first crack in a revelation that would change everything humans thought they knew about their universe and their place in it. The emergency session at the United Nations headquarters in New York had never seen anything like it. Representatives from every major space agency, military organization, and scientific institution were gathered in the main assembly hall. The discoveries made in the past 72 hours had shattered every assumption about humanity's place in the universe. Secretary General Patricia Williams stood at the podium, addressing a room filled with the most powerful people on Earth. Behind her, massive screens displayed the compiled data from observatories, space stations, and research facilities around the globe. The evidence was overwhelming and terrifying. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are no longer alone, and we never were," Williams began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was announcing. "The invisible infrastructure surrounding our planet suggests we have been under observation by multiple extraterrestrial civilizations for an unknown period of time." In the audience, General Marcus Thompson of the United States Space Force leaned forward in his seat. The military implications of invisible alien technologies operating near Earth were staggering. If these civilizations had been watching humanity undetected, what else were they capable of? Dr. Sarah Chen had been brought down from the ISS to present her findings directly to the assembly. She stood at the secondary podium, still adjusting to gravity after her extended time in space. The energy patterns we're detecting show clear signs of intelligent design and purpose. These aren't natural phenomena. They're technological constructs operating on principles we don't understand. "Dr. Chen," interrupted Ambassador Liu Wei from China, "how long do you estimate these structures have been present around Earth?" Sarah consulted her data tablet. "Based on the sophistication of the infrastructure and the way it's integrated with Earth's natural electromagnetic field, I would estimate decades at minimum, possibly centuries." The room erupted in whispered conversations and concerned murmurs. The idea that humanity had been observed for generations without knowing it was deeply unsettling to everyone present. Meanwhile, in research facilities around the world, scientists were making new discoveries every hour. At the European Southern Observatory in Chile, Dr. Carlos Mendez had been using adaptive optics to study what he thought were atmospheric distortions. Instead, he found that the distortions were caused by massive invisible objects moving through Earth's orbital space. "The objects are enormous," Carlos reported via video link to the UN Assembly. "Some of them appear to be several kilometers in length. They move with purpose and coordination, suggesting they're artificial vessels of some kind." In Japan, Dr. Yuki Tanaka at CERN had been working around the clock to understand the exotic particles they were detecting. Her team had made a breakthrough that sent chills through the scientific community. We've determined that these particles can be manipulated to create temporary visibility, Dr. Tanaka announced during her presentation to the assembly. By bombarding them with specific electromagnetic frequencies, we can cause them to interact with photons for brief periods. This revelation meant that humanity might actually be able to see the invisible alien infrastructure, at least temporarily. The technology required was beyond current human capabilities, but the theoretical framework was sound. General Thompson stood up from his seat. Dr. Tanaka, are you saying we could develop technology to detect these alien vessels and structures? In theory, yes, she replied, but it would require enormous amounts of energy and extremely precise electromagnetic field generation. We're talking about technology that's probably decades beyond our current capabilities. What Dr. Tanaka didn't mention was the discovery her team had made just hours before the UN session. While experimenting with exotic particle manipulation, they had accidentally created a brief window of visibility that revealed something horrifying. For exactly 2.3 seconds, their laboratory instruments had detected a massive structure positioned directly above CERN. The object appeared to be some kind of observation platform, equipped with technology that was actively scanning the particle accelerator facility. The aliens weren't just passively watching humanity. They were actively studying human scientific progress, particularly in the areas of physics and space technology. Back at the UN, the assembly was struggling to process the implications of their situation. Ambassador Sarah Okafor from Nigeria raised a critical question that everyone was thinking, but afraid to ask. If these civilizations have technology so advanced that they can remain completely invisible to us, and they've been watching us for possibly centuries, why haven't they made contact? What are their intentions? The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. Dr. Elena Volkov from Russia, who had first proposed the theory of invisible alien civilizations, stood to address the assembly. Based on our analysis of the data patterns, we believe there are at least 12 distinct technological signatures around Earth. This suggests multiple different civilizations are observing us simultaneously. The fact that they've maintained concealment for so long could indicate several possibilities. Dr. Volkov paused, choosing her words carefully. They could be studying us as scientists study laboratory subjects. They could be waiting for humanity to reach a certain level of technological development before making contact, or... She hesitated. Or what, Dr. Volkov? Press Secretary General Williams. Or they could be assessing whether humanity represents a threat that needs to be contained or eliminated. The room fell silent. The possibility that humanity was being evaluated by multiple alien civilizations, with their survival hanging in the balance, was a scenario no one had prepared for. General Thompson was already thinking about defensive strategies. How long do we have before they realize we've detected them? Dr. Chen looked at her atmospheric readings. The energy patterns around Earth have actually been changing since we started detecting them. It's subtle, but the configurations are shifting. I think they already know we're becoming aware of their presence. In laboratories around the world, researchers were working frantically to learn everything they could about the invisible infrastructure surrounding Earth. Radio telescopes were being recalibrated to detect the structured signals. Particle accelerators were being modified to study exotic matter interactions. Gravitational wave detectors were mapping the movements of massive invisible objects. Dr. James Wright at Arecibo had been analyzing the radio signals for patterns that might indicate the aliens' intentions. What he found was both fascinating and terrifying. The signals include detailed scans of our major cities, military installations, and industrial centers, he reported to his team. They're not just watching us. They're cataloging our capabilities, our infrastructure, our potential as both allies and threats. The realization was spreading through the global scientific community. Humanity had stumbled into a galactic neighborhood that was far more crowded and complex than anyone had imagined. Earth wasn't an isolated world developing in peaceful solitude. It was under surveillance by multiple advanced civilizations, each with their own unknown agendas. As Dr. Chen prepared to return to the ISS to continue her observations, she couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was running out of time. The invisible watchers were becoming more active, their energy patterns more complex. Something was changing in the hidden architecture around Earth, and she suspected that humanity's accidental discovery of their presence had triggered events that could not be stopped. The veil was lifting, but what lay behind it might be more than humanity was prepared to face. 3 weeks after the initial discoveries, humanity's perception of reality had fundamentally changed. What started as unusual atmospheric readings had evolved into the most significant revelation in human history. The invisible infrastructure around Earth was not only vast and complex, but it was becoming increasingly active. Dr. Sarah Chen floated in the ISS observation module, watching something that should have been impossible. Through her modified instruments, she could detect massive shapes moving through Earth's orbital space. The objects followed precise patterns like ships navigating invisible highways in the vacuum around the planet. Mission Control. The traffic patterns are increasing, Sarah reported to Houston. I'm detecting at least 47 large objects in motion around Earth's orbital zone. They're moving with purpose and coordination. The response from Mission Control carried a tension that hadn't been there a month ago. Copy that, ISS. We're tracking similar increases in all monitored regions. Dr. Chen, we need you to focus on Sector 7. We're getting readings that suggest something massive is approaching from lunar orbit. Sarah adjusted her instruments toward the designated sector and immediately saw why Mission Control was concerned. The energy signature approaching Earth was unlike anything they had detected before. It was enormous, perhaps 10 times larger than the largest objects they had previously observed, and it was moving directly toward Earth's atmosphere. Down on the planet's surface, the scientific community was in a state of controlled panic. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's team at CERN had been working continuously to develop their exotic particle manipulation technology. They had made significant progress, but their experiments were revealing disturbing information about the alien infrastructure. The particles we're detecting aren't just used for concealment, Dr. Tanaka explained during an emergency video conference with scientists around the world. They appear to be components of a massive network that extends throughout the entire solar system. We're not just dealing with observers around Earth. We're dealing with an interplanetary civilization that has infrastructure everywhere. In Australia, Dr. Rebecca Foster at the Parkes Radio Telescope had been monitoring the structured signals from space. Her analysis revealed patterns that suggested the alien civilizations were communicating with each other about humanity. The signal traffic has increased by over 300% since we started detecting their presence, Dr. Foster reported. The communication patterns suggest they're coordinating responses to our discovery. We're definitely on their agenda now. The most significant breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Michael Petrov, a theoretical physicist at Moscow State University, had been working on quantum field manipulation as a potential method for faster-than-light communication. His experiments accidentally created a brief interaction with the exotic matter surrounding Earth. For exactly 8 seconds, Dr. Petrov's laboratory equipment established what appeared to be a communication link with one of the invisible structures. The data that came through during those 8 seconds would change everything humanity thought they knew about their situation. The transmission included mathematical concepts, star charts, and what appears to be a historical record, Dr. Petrov announced during an emergency session of the world's leading physicists. But the most important element was a warning. The warning was transmitted in pure mathematical language that was universally understandable. It contained information about the galaxy that humanity had never suspected. The Milky Way was divided into territories controlled by various species and alliances. Earth existed in a region that was considered neutral space, but only because humanity had been deemed too primitive to be a significant factor in galactic politics. According to the transmission, there are over 200 spacefaring civilizations in our local galactic region, Dr. Petrov continued. Earth has been under joint observation by what they call the Monitoring Collective, which includes 12 different species. They've been watching human development for over 400 years. The revelation that aliens had been observing humanity since before the Renaissance was staggering, but the implications of the warning were even more significant. Humanity's rapid technological advancement in the past century had triggered what the aliens called an evaluation protocol. Dr. Chen, still aboard the ISS, was the first to detect the results of that evaluation protocol. The massive object approaching from lunar orbit had established a stationary position directly above Earth's North Pole. Energy readings indicated it was some kind of platform or station, far larger than anything humans had ever built. Mission Control, the object has stopped moving. It's maintaining position at approximately 600 kilometers altitude, directly over the magnetic North Pole. Energy readings suggest it's powering up some kind of massive system. General Thompson, who had been coordinating the military response to the alien presence, received the transmission from the ISS with growing concern. If the aliens were positioning what appeared to be a weapons platform above Earth, humanity needed to be prepared for any possibility. But Dr. Volkov's analysis of the communication pattern suggested something different. The positioning isn't military, she announced during an emergency briefing at the Pentagon. The location above the magnetic pole, the energy signatures, the timing of the arrival. I believe they're preparing to establish formal communication with humanity. The theory was supported by new data from radio telescopes around the world. The structured signals from space were changing, becoming more organized and directed toward Earth's major communication centers. It appeared that the monitoring collective was preparing to end humanity's isolation. Dr. James Wright at Arecibo was the first to detect the new signal pattern. They're transmitting on frequencies that our communication satellites use. The signals are structured in a way that suggests they understand our technology and are attempting to establish a communication protocol we can understand. The implications were enormous. After centuries of secret observation, the alien civilizations were preparing to make official contact with humanity. But the transmission from Dr. Petrov's accidental communication link suggested that this contact wasn't necessarily going to be friendly. The warning had included information about what happened to species that were deemed unsuitable for galactic civilization. Some were placed under permanent quarantine, confined to their home systems and prevented from developing interstellar travel. Others were relocated to designated sectors where they could develop, without interfering with established civilizations. The most problematic species were simply eliminated. Humanity was about to be evaluated, and their future existence might depend on how that evaluation proceeded. As Dr. Chen continued monitoring the massive platform above Earth's pole, she noticed that it was beginning to emit structured energy patterns toward the planet's surface. The patterns were being directed at major population centers, suggesting that the aliens were scanning human civilization in detail. "They're not just observing anymore," Sarah reported to Mission Control. "They're actively analyzing our cities, our infrastructure, our population distribution. This looks like a comprehensive assessment." Around the world, scientists were detecting similar scanning patterns. The invisible infrastructure that had been passively monitoring humanity for centuries was now actively evaluating human civilization. Radio frequencies were being probed. Nuclear facilities were being examined. Military installations were being mapped in detail. The monitoring collective was preparing to determine humanity's fate, and the results of that determination would decide whether the human species would be allowed to continue developing as an independent civilization, or would face a far more restrictive future. Dr. Petrov's team in Moscow was working frantically to re-establish communication with the alien network. If humanity was going to be judged by these advanced civilizations, they needed to understand the criteria being used and find a way to influence the outcome. The veil had been lifted, and humanity could see the galaxy as it really was. A complex web of competing civilizations, territorial disputes, and careful balances of power. Earth had accidentally revealed itself as a potentially significant player in that galactic community, and now the established powers were deciding what to do about the newcomers. The first official communication from the monitoring collective arrived exactly 72 hours after the massive platform positioned itself above Earth's magnetic pole. Dr. James Wright was alone in the Arecibo control room when every radio telescope on Earth simultaneously received the same transmission. The message was broadcast in multiple languages, suggesting the aliens had been monitoring human communications far longer than anyone had suspected. The translation was perfect, indicating a comprehensive understanding of human linguistic patterns and cultural concepts. "People of Earth," the transmission began, "we are the monitoring collective, representatives of the established civilizations in this galactic sector. Your species has achieved a level of technological development that requires formal evaluation and classification within the galactic community. Dr. Wright immediately activated the emergency communication protocols, alerting governments and scientific institutions around the world. Within minutes, the transmission was being analyzed by linguists, diplomats, and military strategists in dozens of countries. The message continued with information that fundamentally changed humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. The galaxy was governed by what the aliens called the Galactic Accords, a set of agreements that regulated contact between species, territorial boundaries, and technological development. Earth has existed within neutral observation space under Article 12 of the Galactic Accords, which permits monitoring of developing species until they achieve interstellar capability or become aware of galactic civilization. Your recent detection of our monitoring infrastructure has triggered the evaluation protocol. Secretary General Patricia Williams was in emergency session with world leaders when the full implications of the transmission became clear. Humanity was about to be classified as either a viable member of galactic civilization or a potential threat that needed to be contained. The aliens outlined 3 possible classifications for human civilization. The first was integration status, which would allow humanity to develop freely and eventually participate in galactic commerce and diplomacy. The second was containment status, which would restrict human development to Earth's solar system under permanent monitoring. The third classification was not explicitly stated, but the implications were clear. The evaluation will assess your species' capacity for coexistence with established civilizations, your potential for technological advancement, and your suitability for integration into galactic society. The transmission continued. Representatives will arrive at your planet's surface within 7 rotations to begin direct assessment. Dr. Chen, monitoring from the ISS, watched as the massive platform above Earth began deploying smaller objects toward the planet's surface. Energy readings suggested these were some kind of transport vessels, though they remained invisible to optical observation. Mission control. I'm detecting multiple objects departing the main platform and heading toward Earth's surface. Based on their trajectories, they're targeting major population centers around the globe. The objects were indeed heading for major cities. One was approaching New York, another was descending toward Beijing, a third was targeting London. Similar objects were heading for Moscow, Tokyo, Delhi, São Paulo, and other major urban centers around the world. Governments scrambled to prepare for what would be humanity's first official contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. Military forces were placed on high alert, though everyone understood that if these civilizations could remain invisible for centuries, conventional weapons would likely be ineffective against their technology. Dr. Yuki Tanaka's team at CERN had been working continuously to develop their exotic particle manipulation technology. They had made a breakthrough that would prove crucial in the coming hours. We've successfully created a stable field that can interact with their concealment technology, Dr. Tanaka announced during an emergency briefing with world leaders. We can't maintain it for long periods, but we can create temporary windows of visibility that will allow us to actually see their representatives when they arrive. The technology required enormous amounts of energy and could only be maintained for minutes at a time, but it represented humanity's first step toward understanding and potentially matching alien technology. Meanwhile, Dr. Petrov in Moscow had re-established limited communication with the alien network. The information he was receiving painted a complex picture of galactic civilization that was both fascinating and terrifying. The galaxy is essentially a colonial empire, Dr. Petrov explained to the Emergency Council of World Leaders. The established civilizations control territory, resources, and trade routes. Newer species are either integrated into this system as junior partners or are contained to prevent them from disrupting the existing order. The aliens had been monitoring human development particularly closely because humanity displayed characteristics that could make them either valuable allies or dangerous threats. Human creativity, adaptability, and rapid technological advancement were seen as potentially beneficial traits. However, human aggression, territorial behavior, and tendency toward conflict were concerning to the established galactic powers. They're particularly interested in our military technology and our approach to conflict resolution, Dr. Petrov continued. Human warfare tactics and weapons development have apparently evolved along different lines than most galactic species. They're trying to determine whether this makes us innovative problem solvers or dangerous aggressors. The first alien representative materialized in New York's Central Park, exactly 7 days after the initial transmission. Dr. Tanaka's particle manipulation technology had been deployed around the meeting site, creating a temporary window of visibility that allowed humanity to see their first alien visitor. The being that appeared was unlike anything in human science fiction. It stood approximately 3 meters tall, with a crystalline structure that seemed to shift and change as it moved. The entity appeared to be made of some kind of organized energy, rather than solid matter, constantly flowing and reforming while maintaining a generally humanoid shape. Secretary General Williams approached the entity with a carefully prepared diplomatic team. The meeting was being broadcast live to billions of people around the world, marking humanity's first official diplomatic contact with extraterrestrial intelligence. I am Coordinator HFY of the Monitoring Collective. The entity communicated through some form of direct mental transmission that bypassed language entirely. I speak for the established civilizations of this galactic sector. Your species has reached a crossroads that will determine your future in the galaxy. The entity's communication method was unsettling but efficient. Concepts and information were transmitted directly into the minds of the human representatives, bypassing the need for translation or interpretation. We have observed human civilization for 437 of your years, Coordinator HFY continued. Your species displays remarkable adaptability and innovation, but also concerning tendencies toward aggression and resource competition. The collective must determine whether humanity can coexist peacefully with established galactic civilization. Secretary General Williams responded carefully, knowing that her words might determine the fate of human civilization. Coordinator HFY, humanity is committed to peaceful coexistence and mutual cooperation. We seek to learn from more advanced civilizations and contribute positively to galactic society. The entity's crystalline form shifted, patterns of light flowing through its structure in what might have been the equivalent of nodding. Your diplomatic response is noted. However, the evaluation process requires more than verbal commitments. We must assess your species' actual behavior patterns, technological capabilities, and potential for integration. Around the world, similar meetings were taking place in major cities. Each alien representative was conducting detailed assessments of human civilization, examining everything from technological infrastructure to cultural practices to military capabilities. Dr. Chen, still monitoring from the ISS, noticed that the alien platform above Earth was receiving constant data streams from the surface meetings. The evaluation was being conducted in real time, with information being transmitted to what appeared to be a larger decision-making body somewhere else in the solar system. The energy patterns suggest they're not making these decisions locally, Sarah reported to Mission Control. The data is being transmitted to multiple locations throughout the solar system. I think we're being evaluated by representatives of several different civilizations simultaneously. The implications were staggering. Humanity wasn't just meeting one alien species. They were being assessed by an entire galactic community that would collectively decide Earth's future. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the outcome would determine whether humanity would join the galaxy as equals or face a far more restricted future. The evaluation process had been ongoing for 6 days, and humanity was beginning to understand just how comprehensive the alien assessment really was. The representatives from the Monitoring Collective weren't just conducting diplomatic meetings. They were examining every aspect of human civilization with a thoroughness that was both impressive and intimidating. Dr. Sarah Chen had been recalled from the ISS to participate in the technical demonstrations that the aliens had requested. In a secure facility outside Geneva, human scientists were being asked to demonstrate their most advanced technologies, while alien observers analyzed every detail. They want to see our quantum computing capabilities, Dr. Yuki Tanaka explained to the assembled team of Earth's best scientists. But they're not just interested in what we can do. They're analyzing how we think, how we approach problems, how we innovate. The alien representative overseeing the technical evaluation introduced itself as Researcher Kethmore, an entity that appeared to be composed of flowing metallic liquid that constantly reformed into different configurations. Unlike Coordinator Vexhi's crystalline structure, Kethamore seemed to be made of some kind of programmable matter that could adapt its form for any purpose. Your species demonstrates unusual problem-solving methodologies, Kethamore communicated to the assembled scientists. Most civilizations develop technology in predictable patterns. Human innovation shows chaotic but effective approaches that are unprecedented. Dr. Chen found the aliens' analysis both flattering and concerning. "What do you mean by chaotic?" she asked. "Human technological development lacks the systematic progression common to galactic civilizations. You create solutions before understanding fundamental principles. You achieve results through trial and error, rather than mathematical certainty. This approach produces unexpected innovations but also unpredictable risks." The alien was describing something that humans took for granted: their willingness to experiment, to try new approaches, to take risks in pursuit of advancement. What felt natural to human scientists was apparently unusual in galactic civilization. Dr. Petrov, who had been serving as humanity's primary communication specialist with the aliens, was learning about galactic society in ways that were reshaping his understanding of intelligence itself. Most galactic species develop along predictable paths, he explained to the Emergency Council of World Leaders. They achieve spaceflight, develop faster-than-light communication, establish trade relationships, and integrate into the existing galactic economy. The process typically takes thousands of years and follows established patterns. "And humans are different?" asked President Martinez of the European Federation. "Apparently, yes. Human civilization has developed technologies in sequences that don't match galactic norms. We achieved nuclear weapons before space travel, developed global communications before understanding quantum mechanics, created artificial intelligence before mastering genetic engineering. To them, our development pattern looks random and potentially dangerous. Meanwhile, in major cities around the world, the alien representatives were conducting what they called behavioral assessments. These involved presenting humans with complex scenarios and observing how they responded to challenges, conflicts, and moral dilemmas. The assessment in Tokyo revealed something that surprised both humans and aliens. When presented with a scenario involving limited resources that had to be distributed among competing groups, the human subjects consistently developed creative solutions that maximized benefit for all parties rather than simply optimizing for their own group's advantage. Human cooperation patterns exceed galactic norms, reported the Tokyo assessment team to the collective. Despite surface appearances of conflict and competition, this species demonstrates remarkable capacity for collaborative problem-solving when properly motivated. Similar assessments around the world were revealing aspects of human nature that even humans hadn't fully recognized. The alien evaluation process was forcing humanity to examine themselves through an external perspective that was both humbling and enlightening. But not all the assessments were favorable. The military evaluation was proving to be particularly problematic. General Thompson had been asked to demonstrate human defensive capabilities, and the results were concerning the alien observers. Human military technology focuses heavily on destruction and intimidation, the military assessment reported. While tactically sophisticated, their approach to conflict resolution relies primarily on superior firepower rather than strategic negotiation or containment protocols. The aliens were particularly disturbed by humanity's nuclear weapons. Most galactic civilizations had developed similar technologies but had abandoned them as too dangerous for practical use. The fact that humans not only maintained massive nuclear arsenals but had actually used nuclear weapons in warfare was seen as evidence of dangerous unpredictability. Coordinator Vexhi addressed this concern directly during a meeting with world leaders. "Your species' approach to conflict management raises significant concerns about integration into galactic society. Most civilizations develop non-destructive containment technologies for managing disputes. Human reliance on mutually assured destruction suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of sustainable conflict resolution." Secretary General Williams tried to explain the historical context that had led to current human military doctrine. "Our nuclear weapons exist as deterrents to prevent large-scale conflicts. The fear of mutual destruction has actually prevented major wars for decades. This logic is comprehensible but inefficient, Vex-High responded. Galactic civilization employs predictive modeling and resource management to prevent conflicts before they develop. Your approach manages consequences rather than addressing root causes. The alien assessment was revealing that human civilization, while innovative and adaptable, was also significantly behind galactic norms in several key areas. Humans had developed impressive technologies but had failed to develop the social and political structures necessary for peaceful coexistence on a galactic scale. Dr. Elena Volkov, who had been analyzing the communication patterns between the alien representatives and their superiors, made a discovery that changed everything about humanity's understanding of their situation. The representatives aren't just evaluating us, she announced during an emergency scientific briefing. They're advocating for us. The energy patterns in their communications suggest they're trying to convince their superiors that humanity deserves integration status rather than containment. This revelation cast the entire evaluation process in a new light. The alien representatives weren't just judges. They were potentially allies who were trying to help humanity pass an evaluation that could determine their species' future. Researcher Kethmore confirmed this interpretation when directly asked by Dr. Chen. The monitoring collective exists to identify species with potential for positive contribution to galactic civilization. Our role is to assess not just current capabilities but potential for growth and adaptation. Are you helping us? Dr. Chen asked carefully. We are evaluating honestly, Kethmore replied. But evaluation includes assessment of teachability, adaptability, and potential for improvement. Species are not judged solely on current development, but on capacity for beneficial integration. This news provided hope, but also increased pressure. The aliens were giving humanity a chance to prove they could adapt to galactic standards, but they still had to demonstrate that capability convincingly. Dr. Tanaka's team made a breakthrough that would prove crucial to humanity's evaluation. They had been working to understand the exotic particle technology used by the aliens and had achieved something unprecedented. They had successfully reverse-engineered a basic version of the alien concealment technology. We can't match their sophistication, Dr. Tanaka explained to the assembled alien representatives. But we've identified the fundamental principles and created a primitive version of the technology. The demonstration involved making a small object completely invisible to electromagnetic radiation for several minutes. It was a simple achievement compared to the aliens' capabilities, but it represented something that impressed the monitoring collective significantly. Reverse engineering, observed technology without direct instruction, is a capability demonstrated by fewer than 12% of evaluated species, researcher Kethmore noted. This suggests significant potential for technological advancement and adaptation. Humanity was beginning to realize that their chaotic, experimental approach to development might actually be an advantage in galactic civilization. While other species followed predictable patterns, humans created unexpected solutions that could contribute new perspectives and capabilities to the galactic community. The evaluation was nearing its conclusion, and the final determination would be made within days. Humanity had demonstrated both impressive capabilities and concerning limitations. Whether their potential outweighed their problems would determine not just Earth's future, but the future of human civilization throughout the galaxy. The final day of evaluation began with an unexpected development that would test humanity in ways no one had anticipated. Dr. Sarah Chen was in the Geneva facility when every monitoring station on Earth simultaneously detected massive energy signatures approaching from deep space. We have multiple large objects entering the solar system, Dr. Chen reported to the Emergency Council. These aren't part of the monitoring collective infrastructure. The energy signatures are completely different, and they're approaching at velocities that suggest hostile intent. Coordinator Vex-High's crystalline form shifted to patterns that the humans had learned indicated extreme agitation. The hegemony forces have arrived ahead of schedule. This complicates the evaluation process significantly. What is the hegemony? Asked Secretary General Williams, though the answer was already becoming apparent from the aliens' obvious distress. The hegemony represents civilizations that oppose integration of new species into galactic society, Vex-High explained. They believe that underdeveloped species represent threats to galactic stability and should be contained or eliminated before achieving interstellar capability. The situation that humanity now faced was far more complex than a simple evaluation. Earth had become the center of a political conflict between different factions in galactic civilization. The Monitoring Collective wanted to integrate promising species, while the hegemony preferred to eliminate potential threats before they could develop. The hegemony has legal authority to intervene if they can demonstrate that a species represents a significant threat to galactic security. HFY continued. They have arrived to present counter-evidence to our integration recommendation. General Thompson immediately activated global defense protocols, though everyone understood that conventional human weapons would be useless against technology that could travel between stars. The approaching hegemony forces represented a threat that humanity was completely unprepared to face. Dr. Petrov, who had been monitoring galactic communications, began receiving transmissions that revealed the true scope of the conflict surrounding Earth. The debate about humanity has been ongoing in galactic civilization for decades, he reported to world leaders. We're not just being evaluated. We're apparently the center of a major political dispute about the future direction of galactic expansion policy. The hegemony forces that entered Earth's orbital space were immediately visible, their ships appearing as massive angular structures that looked designed for intimidation and destruction. Unlike the elegant flowing technologies of the Monitoring Collective, hegemony vessels appeared heavily armored and bristling with what could only be weapon systems. Monitoring Collective designation HFY came the transmission from the lead hegemony vessel. You will cease integration evaluation procedures immediately. This species has been designated for containment under Galactic Security Protocol 7. Coordinator HFY's response was transmitted on frequencies that human equipment could monitor, apparently intentionally allowing humanity to understand the exchange. Hegemony Commander Toruk, the evaluation process is incomplete. This species demonstrates significant potential for beneficial integration. Your intervention is premature and violates collective assessment protocols. Human military capabilities and aggressive tendencies represent unacceptable risks to galactic stability. Commander Toruk replied. Their nuclear weapons technology, combined with rapid advancement patterns, creates probability matrices that exceed acceptable threat thresholds. Dr. Chen realized that humanity was listening to a debate about their own fate being conducted by civilizations that could eliminate human civilization without significant effort. The outcome of this argument would determine whether humanity had a future as an independent species. But then something happened that surprised everyone, including the aliens. Dr. Tanaka's team at CERN had been working frantically to improve their exotic particle manipulation technology, and they achieved a breakthrough that nobody had expected. We've successfully created a stable communication link with the galactic network, Dr. Tanaka announced. We can participate directly in the discussion about our own fate. The technology required enormous amounts of energy and was burning out equipment as fast as they could replace it. But for the first time, humanity could speak directly to galactic civilization without going through intermediaries. Dr. Chen was chosen to represent humanity in what might be their species' most important diplomatic moment. Using the communication link, she addressed both the Monitoring Collective and the hegemony forces directly. Commander Toruk, Coordinator HFY, I am Dr. Sarah Chen, speaking for the human species. We understand that our development has raised concerns about our suitability for galactic civilization. We request the opportunity to address those concerns directly. The response from Commander Toruk carried undertones of surprise and annoyance. This species should not possess technology capable of accessing galactic communication networks. This unauthorized development supports our assessment that they represent a security threat. But Coordinator HFY's response was different. The fact that humans have independently developed galactic communication capability during the evaluation period demonstrates exactly the kind of innovation potential that supports integration. Status. Dr. Chen seized the opportunity to present humanity's case directly to galactic civilization. We acknowledge that human civilization has developed along unusual patterns. We have made mistakes, created dangerous technologies, and sometimes responded to challenges with violence rather than wisdom. But we have also demonstrated the ability to learn, adapt, and change. She began presenting evidence that the human evaluation team had been preparing, examples of human cooperation, creativity, and problem-solving that went beyond what the formal assessments had captured. In the past century, humanity has eliminated diseases that killed millions, developed technologies that connect our entire planet, and begun to address environmental challenges that threatened our survival. We make mistakes, but we learn from them. We create problems, but we also create solutions. Commander Torok was not convinced. Historical patterns suggest that aggressive species with rapid technological development create instability throughout their galactic regions. Containment protocols exist to prevent such disruptions, but Dr. Chen had prepared for this argument. Commander, with respect, your assessment is based on statistical models of species development. But humans have something that your models may not account for. We change. We adapt. We become better than we were. To prove her point, she presented something that stunned both alien factions. Humanity had prepared a demonstration of their ability to change fundamental aspects of their civilization. While you have been evaluating us, we have been evaluating ourselves. World leaders have reached agreements to redirect our nuclear arsenals toward asteroid mining and space exploration. Our military technologies are being converted to planetary defense and resource management systems. We are not the same species we were when your evaluation began. The demonstration that followed showed hegemony and collective observers that humanity could indeed change, rapidly and fundamentally when properly motivated. The species that had concerned them with aggressive tendencies was actively transforming itself into something more suitable for galactic citizenship. Researcher Kethmore added support to humanity's case. This adaptation capability exceeds anything we have observed in previous evaluations. The speed and comprehensiveness of the changes suggest that human flexibility could be a valuable asset to galactic civilization rather than a threat. Commander Toryuk's vessels remained in threatening positions around Earth, but the hegemony commander was clearly reconsidering the situation. These claimed changes require verification. Words and promises have little value in threat assessment protocols. Dr. Chen had prepared for this challenge as well. Then verify them. Send observers to monitor our civilization for as long as necessary. We will demonstrate through actions that humanity can be trusted with galactic citizenship. The proposal was unprecedented in galactic evaluation protocols. No species had ever volunteered for extended monitoring as a condition of integration status. But Dr. Chen understood that humanity's unusual development pattern required unusual solutions. The communication link was beginning to fail as the equipment overloaded. But Dr. Chen had one final point to make. We ask not for unconditional acceptance, but for the opportunity to prove ourselves worthy of the trust you might place in us. Judge us not only by what we have been, but by what we are capable of becoming. As the communication link collapsed, leaving humanity once again dependent on alien intermediaries, the debate about Earth's fate continued in the space above their planet. But now the terms of that debate had changed, and humanity had spoken for themselves in the court of galactic civilization. The debate between the monitoring collective and the hegemony forces continued for 18 hours above Earth's atmosphere. During that time, humanity could only wait and watch as their fate was decided by civilizations whose capabilities they were just beginning to understand. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the Geneva facility's observation deck, watching the energy patterns that marked the positions of invisible ships engaged in what amounted to a legal proceeding that would determine humanity's future. The technology that had allowed brief communication with galactic civilization had burned out completely, leaving Earth once again dependent on alien intermediaries. Coordinator Vexhai materialized in the facility as the debate reached its conclusion. The entity's crystalline structure displayed patterns that humans had learned indicated positive news. The Galactic Council has reached a decision regarding humanity's classification, Vexhai announced to the assembled human representatives. Your species has been granted provisional integration status under the mentorship protocol. Secretary General Williams felt a wave of relief, but she was experienced enough in diplomacy to know that provisional status meant there were conditions attached. What does the mentorship protocol entail? Humanity will be permitted to develop as an independent civilization, but with guidance and monitoring from appointed mentors representing various aspects of galactic society. Your progress will be evaluated periodically, with full integration status available upon demonstration of sustained stability and positive contribution. Dr. Chen was the first to ask the critical question. What convinced the Council to approve integration rather than containment? Vexai's patterns shifted to what might have been the alien equivalent of approval. Several factors influenced the decision. Your species demonstrated adaptability and willingness to change fundamental aspects of your civilization was unprecedented. The innovation shown in developing galactic communication technology during the evaluation period exceeded expectations. Most significantly, your proposal for voluntary extended monitoring demonstrated a level of self-awareness and commitment to improvement that impressed even hegemony representatives. The news was better than anyone had dared hope, but Dr. Petrov immediately recognized the implications of mentorship status. Who will serve as our mentors, and what authority will they have over human development? The Mentorship Council will include representatives from 6 different civilizations, each specializing in different aspects of galactic citizenship. They will provide guidance on technology development, conflict resolution, resource management, interstellar diplomacy, environmental stewardship, and cultural integration. And if we disagree with their guidance? Asked General Thompson. Mentorship is advisory, not authoritative, Vexai explained. However, significant deviation from recommended development paths could trigger reassessment of your integration status. The goal is to help humanity develop in directions that benefit both your species and galactic civilization as a whole. Dr. Yuki Tanaka was particularly interested in the technological implications. Will our mentors share advanced technologies with us? Technology transfer will be gradual and tied to demonstrated responsibility and understanding. You will have access to improved energy systems, basic faster-than-light communication, and advanced materials science. More significant technologies will become available as your civilization demonstrates readiness for them. The conditions were strict but fair. Humanity would have the opportunity to develop as an independent species, while receiving guidance that could accelerate their advancement by centuries. It was an unprecedented arrangement that reflected humanity's unusual position as a species that had impressed galactic civilization with their potential while concerning them with their unpredictability. Commander, Toruk's vessel remained in Earth orbit as the hegemony representative addressed humanity directly for the first time. The communication came through the same mental transmission method used by the monitoring collective, but with an underlying intensity that felt distinctly different. Human species, the hegemony has agreed to this provisional arrangement, but understand that our concerns about your development patterns remain valid. Your advancement will be monitored closely, and any indication that you pose a threat to galactic stability will result in immediate reassessment. We understand, Commander, Secretary General Williams replied. Humanity is committed to proving worthy of the trust being placed in us. Words are easily spoken. Actions will be observed and evaluated continuously. Your species' future depends on demonstrating that adaptation capability you claim to possess. As the hegemony forces departed Earth's orbital space, leaving behind monitoring satellites that would observe human development, Dr. Chen realized that humanity had just passed the most important test in their species' history. But it was only the beginning of an even greater challenge. The mentors who would guide humanity's development began arriving within days of the Council's decision. Each representative brought technologies, knowledge, and perspectives that would reshape human civilization in ways that were both exciting and challenging. The first mentor to make contact was academician Jilson, a representative of the scholar collective who would guide human scientific and technological development. The entity appeared as a complex geometric structure that constantly reconfigured itself, apparently made of some form of crystallized knowledge that could adapt to any information processing need. Human scientists, academician Jilson addressed the assembled researchers. Your approach to discovery is unlike any we have observed. Rather than attempting to change your methods, we will work to enhance them. Your intuitive experimental approach produces innovations that systematic development often misses. The scholar collective had identified something that even humans hadn't fully recognized. Their chaotic approach to scientific advancement was actually a form of accelerated evolution that could benefit galactic civilization. Rather than forcing humans to adopt alien research methodologies, the mentors would help humanity refine and enhance their natural, innovative capabilities. Dr. Tanaka was among the first to work directly with the new technologies being made available to humanity. The energy systems provided by their mentors were based on principles that human science had theorized, but never achieved. "They're not just giving us advanced technology," she explained to her research team. "They're teaching us the fundamental principles so we can develop our own applications. It's like being given the mathematical foundations of physics that we're decades away from discovering independently." Similar mentorship programs were being established in other areas of human development. Diplomat mentor Kelthara was working with world leaders to develop more sophisticated approaches to international relations and conflict resolution. Environmental mentor Paxnim was helping humanity address climate change and resource management using techniques that had been proven successful across multiple galactic civilizations, but perhaps the most significant change was in humanity's understanding of their place in the universe. The revelation that Earth existed in a galaxy filled with diverse civilizations, competing interests, and complex political relationships had fundamentally altered human perspective on their own importance and potential. Dr. Chen, now serving as humanity's primary liaison with the Mentorship Council, found herself at the center of humanity's transition from an isolated species to junior members of galactic civilization. "The most important thing we're learning," she told a gathering of world leaders, "is that the galaxy doesn't revolve around us. But there's still an important place for humanity in it. Our unusual development pattern, our adaptability, our creative problem-solving approach. These are actually valuable contributions to galactic society." 6 months after first contact, humanity was already showing the kind of rapid adaptation that had impressed their evaluators. Nuclear weapons were being systematically converted to peaceful applications. International conflicts were being resolved using mediation techniques learned from galactic diplomacy. Environmental restoration projects were incorporating alien technologies that could repair decades of damage within years. Most importantly, humanity was developing a new sense of identity as a species with both significant potential and important responsibilities. The knowledge that they were being watched and evaluated by galactic civilization had created a unity of purpose that transcended traditional national and cultural boundaries. Dr. Chen stood once again in an observation deck, but this time she was aboard humanity's first faster-than-light communication station, orbiting beyond the moon. The invisible infrastructure around Earth was no longer hidden. Human technology could now detect and interact with the galactic network that connected civilizations across the galaxy. "The veil has been lifted," she said to herself, watching the energy patterns that marked communication streams flowing between star systems. "We can see the galaxy as it really is. Vast, complex, dangerous, and full of possibilities." Humanity had discovered they were part of something much larger than they had ever imagined. They had been tested, evaluated, and found worthy of joining that larger community. The journey from isolated species to galactic citizens would take generations, but they had taken the first crucial steps. The universe was no longer vast and lonely. It was crowded, challenging, and filled with opportunities for a species bold enough to prove themselves worthy of their place among the stars.